Hi, my amazing planner friends. It's Jess from my magical planner. And today we're going to be planning out the week of May 1st through the 7th in my Aura style planner. I use Harriet Wright Designs inserts, and I'm going to be using the subscription kit I get from Sadie Stickers. This was last month's subscription, and I just pulled out a variety of different elements from my sticker stock to kind of maybe help put things together. I usually go through and just pick out a bunch of things that I think, well, maybe this will work, and kind of go from there. I knew this month that I wanted to do something different and that I wanted to use full boxes, but I also wanted to use more of the journaling elements. So I'm actually going to start all the way over. I knew I wanted to use this bigger kind of scene, but I didn't want it to take up the full space. I felt like if it took up the whole space, it was just too boxy. So I put it down, and then I'm using one of the really large florals to kind of go into the header space. I did decide that this little piece here kind of went too much into my Monday space, so I just trimmed it off. And I'm going to go ahead and trim the edge of that bigger box so it lines up with the edge of my paper. And I really like the way it came together. I did decide to reposition the May, and when I did this, you'll see that some of the ink came off because it was just a black ink. I just came in with a permanent ink pen and kind of fixed it, and that worked really well. So if that ever happens to you, know that that's a fix you can use. And then along the top, I wanted to do a little bit more deco, but I still wanted to keep it floral. So I'm kind of playing around with a bunch of different elements from the journaling kit, including the stamps, which I love the stamps. They are so amazing. I love the shape of them. I love the pictures in them. So I was super happy to be able to include them up here. Now, I do take a break in a few minutes to replace the blade in my craft knife because they do get dull, and this one obviously was getting there. And I was like, well, maybe I can get this one last plan with me done, but yeah, it annoyed me too much. So I eventually do change out that blade. So I went ahead and used a stamp, and then I'm pulling in some florals, kind of alternating floral with some kind of deco element. So I have the floral, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm like, I want another piece of deco, maybe this, maybe that. And I kind of place a lot of different things there, trying to figure out what do I want there. And I decided I wanted to see what the Monday script looked like up there and how much white space do I want. And then I ended up going with the basket, like the picnic basket, as my next piece of deco, which I really like the way that looked as well. And I added in my Tuesday, so I can kind of see how this is coming together. Since it's not something I normally do, doing it one piece at a time was really helpful. I did kind of fall into what do I do after the picnic basket, because I didn't have a ton of variety in different elements that I felt I could fit in that space. So you'll see me start to get a little bit more creative with it as we go forward here. Now I'm taking a bit of that torn paper elements that you have in the journaling kit and placing it at the top to kind of bring in some more of that floral. But I was like, well, I have this gap between the basket and this. And how am I going to bridge that? So I took the other portion of that stamp that I had used on Monday and kind of placed it in. I was like, oh yeah, I like that, but I need something more. So I added in a flower, just a really small stemmed flower to kind of bridge that gap, because I didn't feel like it had to be just everything. And this is how it turned out. Pretty happy with that. Now going into the second half of the week, I knew I wanted to keep this theme going, and I knew I wanted a bigger element at the end of the week to kind of add as like bookends almost. So I was like, well, what do I want at the beginning of the week to kind of keep it going but not be too big? So I ended up with this small Polaroid. At least I think that's what it is, or maybe it's a picture that's supposed to be on the wall, and I'm adding in some florals, and I'm like, but I need something else. I do trim the top of this to give myself a better idea of how this looked. It would have been better if I had put the sticker paper underneath of it when I did that, but it still worked. I was still lucky. So in the end, what I decided to do, and this is kind of inspired from my Sterling ink subscription is I take the bike and I'm cutting it in half so that I can have part of it. Now, if I had to do this over again, I think I would cut just a little bit down from where I did, just because it wanted to break in half really bad because I didn't leave enough sticker there between. But in the end, I really like the way that it looked and just the uniqueness of it. Then I decided, well, I'm going to put the big element I want on the end there, and I can just see and kind of fill in the space between. So I went with the boat, which I really, really liked, and a larger floral kind of overlaying it because I don't know, I liked the way that that looked, and I liked the stamp element so much from the beginning of the week. I'm like, I'm going to use that again. I wasn't really paying attention to how I cut it, and so I cut it wrong, but it ended up being just fine, and I just added it in a different spot than I originally thought I was going to. Now, I'm also using some of these swatch elements that she has in the kit, but I knew I didn't want the whole swatch, so I went ahead and cut that down just so I could have the color from it, but I also didn't want the bulkiness of having all of that sticker underneath another sticker. So that's kind of why I cut it. Plus, I can now use it in a different spot. Now, I knew I wanted something in this kind of Friday space, but I was like, everything I was trying just felt too big. So eventually I decided, well, maybe I can pull in the same element that I had at the beginning of the week, but just cut it differently so it looks more unique. And that's what I ended up doing. I just used the bottom portion of that sticker, and I really like the way it all came together. I think it's very unique for me personally. I'm definitely drawing a lot of inspiration from gathered plans and that kind of thing. Now I'm going back through and I'm using the date dots that came with the subscription. I really liked these. They really went well with the kit. And along with that, I'm going to go back through and pull out just a couple of like the little single flowers and the cluster elements to add just a little sparkle at the top. I felt like it went really well, and I didn't want to overdo it, but I still wanted to have a little bit of them kind of dispersed throughout. And I do decide that, of course, I want some butterflies up there as well. That seems to be my go-to. So I pulled out a couple of butterflies from Letters to Apollo just to kind of add to the space. I didn't use very many of them because I didn't want to overload the space. Next, I'm just going through and adding some headers along the top. This just gives me a nice, like, finished edge. So you can say, here are my, days of the week, and then everything underneath, no matter how decorative it is my weekly stuff. So that was kind of my thought process with that. Plus, she's made these headers or dividers, so small and dainty that they don't take up any real room in your column, which is really nice. It makes me more inclined to use them. I'm also going through and just cutting them appropriately to fit in each column space. You could lift off the stickers and kind of place them underneath. I just don't like the bulkiness all the time. So where I felt like it was easy-ish, I went ahead and trimmed those up. You'll see that, here on Wednesday, I went ahead and just lifted that sticker up because I would have to trim on both sides. Then we're going to start on the side column there. I'm doing it very differently this week because I'm not tracking food things. I don't have a habit tracker, and I was just trying to get through the week. So I first added in a this week script that's from Paper Trail Plans. And because of the placement, I felt like I had that empty area. So I've pulled in a Letters to Apollo butterfly there as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and use more of these really thin dividers there just to kind of give me a frame almost to the box I'm putting in now, which is just that empty decorative box that she has with the kit. And I'm going to use this to add in my YouTube post that I wanted to get out this week. Doesn't always happen, but it's good to have goals. My health often gets in the way of when I want to get things out. Below that, I did want to mark in just an area of the book I'm reading currently kind of deal. So I pulled in this really cute girl from paper doll codes and layered it with one of the paper elements from the journaling kit. And I'm using this to mark what I'm reading. It's a self-care type deal as well. It brings me joy, and I just want to make sure that I am focusing on it. So this month or this week, sorry, I am working on re-listening to Harry Potter book 4, The Goblet of Fire, because I love it. And I also purchased Hogwarts Legacy and I'm playing through that. I know there's some J.K. Rowling issues, but I still love the story. So I've been stuck and finally gave in this last week. That being said, I also at the bottom there, I wanted to, since I had a spot to record post on YouTube, I wanted to try doing the same thing for Instagram. And I knew I wanted to use this torn paper element. So I knew I didn't want the beginning of it and I didn't want the end. So I was just trying to figure out placement there. And then I'm trimming off both sides. So I kind of have this middle ground. So it's not too thin, not too thick. Then I'm going to go ahead and layer that Monday through Sunday box on top of that. And it kind of just gives me almost a frame effect as well here, and a place to put my post on Instagram script, which was from Paper Trail Plans. Now, originally I was going to use that other bit of torn paper element at the bottom to kind of finish out that frame. But then I realized I had not placed down the washi at the bottom that I wanted. So I pulled that back up and I'm going ahead and taking the thinner of the two washi strips and just running it along that bottom line to give me a nice, clean, finished edge. And then I'm pulling in the larger floral trims from the kit and I'm layering it on top to give me a more organic edge down there. And I really like the way that that decided to come together. And I'm doing it on both sides, obviously. And I just go ahead and trim those pieces up so that they fit the columns appropriately. It's not a huge trim because they're pretty close and it's just really easy to do. I did decide to lay both elements down before I trimmed, so I'd only have to make one cut opposed to two. And I like that better for me. Everyone has their own choices. So anyhow, that's how I decided to do the bottom there. And I really like the way it turned out. I might be using this in coming spreads for sure. Now moving on to the full boxes, what I decided to do was have a combination of some of the full boxes from the kit, but also some of the journaling elements from that journaling pages. So I used a couple of the full boxes, and then like on Sunday, I'm using a very large floral instead. On Friday, I used the other half of that decorative scene that I used in the side column. And I'm using a Polaroid on Monday instead, and it just gives me more flexibility. I did have a slight gap in there. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize that the camera stopped recording. Moving on to Monday, I had a bunch of things I needed to mark in the morning, and so I'm trying a couple of different elements going, how is this going to work? One of those things is getting the van tires and oil changed on, so I ended up using this little bit of road that I got from Whiteyear stationery I was like, I really like this. I'm going to add to it. And then at the top, I'm using one of the paper elements from the journaling kit to mark that I was hoping to restart the diet this day. That didn't happen, but you know, life is what it is. Along with the road element, I'm adding in some floral, and that kind of allows me between that and the Polaroid to make almost a box there. So I could fill in the time and information that I wanted there. I also have a slight slant there. So I'm lifting up one end and adding in a clipboard. The clipboard's a leftover from Miss and Meow, and so I'm using that to add in some cleaning elements that I needed to get done. I tend to do that in preparation for the cleaners coming on Tuesday. And I'm using a cleaning script from Paper Trail Plans again. I have a bunch of her scripts and I just really think they work well. And I added a checklist there so I could add in the elements that really needed to get done to make sure we were ready. Below that, I am putting in a nice midi box from the kit, and I took these floral little scenes that I had from Sadie stickers and I cut one down to put in because I'm using this to mark Emily has flower and garden. No, wait. It's a kitchen garden club. Sorry, I keep on wanting to call it flower garden after Disney. So I just wrote that at the top, and then I realized I didn't have enough room to write her name. So I went in my leftover book and found like a little corner with colors that matched, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that down to add her name in there. Below that, I do add a full-size box. This is me realizing, hey, I didn't add Emily's name here. So how can I add the information I want to? And yeah. There's my leftover book. Sorry, I must have got ahead myself. But I just use this little corner and I write her name on it first. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it down to size so that it fits perfectly in there. And it just works really well with the other elements that are there and doesn't take up a whole lot of space. It still looks really pretty. And I still had room to write in the time and everything. Below that, I am writing in Megan's skating lesson and just making sure I have all the details on that for her. She definitely has had a big upswing on her focus on the skating as of late, so it's been really important. Below her skating lesson, I'm pulling in a leftover circle box that I had to indicate Ethan's work. I'm adding a shopping cart and just some florals around it to kind of fill out the scene and everything. It looked really cute when I was done, and I was super happy with that. It's super easy to do and just add it to the background of that shopping cart. I also pulled in just a floral leaf on the other side, which adds to that curvature of the circle. I also wanted to add in a little bit of sparkles, so I pulled in just a little bit of clusters from the foil kit, and I'm just adding them onto that little area by the shopping cart and by where the clipboard is. I thought about adding a divider in there, but I felt like that was too harsh of a line. And I'm just adding in my cleaning list here, which includes my kitchen, which always needs picking up, I swear, and laundry, and just a general house tidy. And I thought giving you guys a close-up would be kind of nice as well. Then after that, we're going to move on to Tuesday. The first thing I wanted to mark on Tuesday was taking a walk. And I had these leftover shoes. I wish I remembered what sticker company these came from because I like how this looked so much. But essentially what I did is I just took a nice floral and put it over top of the shoes. And I like the way that combination of the black and the color came together. And then I had this script from The Giving Girl and I trimmed it off a little bit just to make it fit in the space a little better and put that next to it. And I went for a walk this morning. Below that, I had an appointment with the dietitian. So I'm going ahead and marking that with just a normal box. I added an appointment script as well as that little salad, which was from White Deer Stationery. And below that, I forgot I wanted to mark the cleaners coming. So I went ahead and found a box that would fit. And that was one of the more swatchy boxes. I can't remember if that was from the journaling kit or the regular kit, and added a Crafts by Towie little icon of cleaning on top to mark that they were coming. This is me going, where did I put the things I want? Then I went ahead and added a trim at the top of that box just to kind of frame it out and add significance to the quote box, because I really like to pull that out and make it stand out in some way, and that seemed like an appropriate way. Then I used the circular box down below. I added a butterfly, and I'm using this to, once a month, I go and get a massage. It's kind of my treat to myself, and I'm just signifying that with the butterfly. I added the word massage and then added an appointment script so I could go ahead and do that. In theory, I was going to do game night this night, but because of the walk and the massage, I was so tired. I came back from the massage and took a 4-hour nap, got up, had dinner, and then went back to bed. So that didn't happen, but it looks really cute. It was a good thought. Like I said, my health sometimes gets in the way of my plans. And it's really frustrating at times, but I'm going with it. Then on Wednesday, I do have my normal therapy appointment, and I'm just signifying that with this really cute box. I'm going to put some florals, kind of tucking them underneath the box to elongate it on that one side, and then adding my Crafts by Towie little therapy chair there to continue that. And then I'm using a therapy script. Again, I think that might be from Paper Trail Plans. I can't remember off the top of my head though. And then next, I needed to mark Daniel's dentist appointment. So I'm using these really cute dental clipboards from White Deer Stationery. I knew that was the icon I wanted, and I'm kind of going off of that. I added a little greenery on top, and then I was placing them on top of the different squares to try and figure out which one I liked. And by going on the opposite side, I'm kind of, again, making that diagonal so your eye is going back and forth, which is really nice. It's very pleasing to your mind. Next, I knew I wanted to use this Polaroid up, and I thought I was going to use it for Megan's skating lesson, and then decided I don't think that's the right thing. Daniel had a concert this night, and so what I ended up doing is I trimmed down some florals, put them inside of the box, and then added this script or like little musical icon thing from Letters to Apollo and added that in there for his concert. And then I ended up just using the Crafts by Towie skates with some florals to mark Megan's lesson, because I'm realizing that I'm running low on space and I still have a few things I want to put in here. Besides that, Dan had his trombone tutor, which I think ended up getting canceled because of the concert. It was just too close in proximity and with everybody getting ready for the concert. But I like the way it looked no matter what. I added one of the paper elements from the journaling kit and then put a floral underneath to just kind of add to that box. And I think it turned out really well. And then next to that, I could also put the diet support group, which I'd hoped to maybe squeeze in, but it didn't happen. Next, I have my nail appointment on Thursday morning. So I'm just kind of placing a midi box. I think it was Letters to Apollo, and a leftover nail icon from Miss Meow with some floral. And I overlaid it a little bit onto that box because they were so close in proximity and it didn't feel like I had enough room to have white space between the two. And I think because of the way that box is, it looks just fine. And knowing that I can overlap and not take away from the decoration is always nice. Below that, Emily had her dental appointment, and I used that same icon that I used for Daniel's from White Deer Stationery to mark that. He also had work, or Daniel had work this day, sorry. Thursdays are always complicated because 3 of the kids have different things, and it's going to get even more complicated. But they have 3 things in 3 different cities, all starting at roughly the same time. And so getting everybody where they need to go can be complicated. But I marked Daniel's work with just a fork and knife icon because he does work at a restaurant with a little bit of floral there, and just made it really simple. And then for Megan's ice skating, I'm going to use a circular box and add some floral to it, as well as her skates, to just make it look really nice. I added the floral on the same side as the box above, and then added the skates on the opposite side and kind of balancing that floral element because the box already had some floral to it. And then next, I'm kind of bounce around. I tend to do this at the end of the week. I had an idea to add this cleaning script, which was a leftover sticker from a kit, I can't remember which one, over a floral to make a cleaning list. I knew on Saturday I always do a house pickup and have the kids involved. So I wanted to make sure that I marked that. And then I also wanted to make a to-do list for Thursday. I was being very optimistic. It did not happen until Friday, but I added a to-do script that was a leftover. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add one of the checklists from the kit below it to mark some things that I needed to get done. Friday, I marked as payday. It was not payday. I don't know why I marked it as payday, but I was optimistic and thought it was payday. I don't know. Anyhow, I just used one of the swatches and a payday script with a floral there, though. Below that, I did meet with the GI doctor on Friday, and that was an okay appointment. So essentially, between him and the surgeon, I know we're going to have some procedures coming up. There's some more tests I need to do and that kind of thing. That was a virtual visit. And so I just marked it with a little piece of paper from the journaling kit along with a white deer stationery little stethoscope there. And I added some florals kind of below it because it felt like the placement was a little bit better there. I'm going to use that floral and overlay a planning script because I'll use that as my planning time. And I'm using my Sticker Guru planning script here. I still have an affiliate link, I believe, and I think my discount code, which is just15, still works. They're below in the description if you need them. But I am no longer on their official PR team. I'm taking a break just to focus on all the health stuff. Doing PR is actually a lot more work than you would think. I mean, Sticker Guru makes it incredibly easy, but it's still, you have to keep up on things. So below that, I am marking that Megan had her therapy. I'm again using a Miss and Meow leftover little chair icon to mark that. And I'm also using that therapy script again. I cut the circle down just so it wouldn't invade that box above it too much, and added a little floral behind to make the chair pop out. Below that, I am marking date night. Again, didn't happen. I get so tired in the evenings that I was still playing catch up from going on a walk. And I have an appointment coming up, so that they're going to investigate that a little bit more. The GI doctor has said he doesn't think that that's related to all the GI issues. They're looking at maybe an autoimmune disease or maybe something metabolic. So I have an appointment about that in a couple of weeks. And then on Saturday, Carly and Ethan is my oldest son. Carly is his girlfriend, and they had her prom because they go to different schools. And so I was marking that I'm going to take pictures for prom for them, which happened. I still haven't edited those, but it did happen and they look cute. And so I was marking that in, and then I marked actually going to prom. There was so much drama associated with this because Ethan forgot to order his suit. So it was a last minute deal. But it all ended up being fine. And then on Sunday, I'm putting in another checklist and adding an organized script on there. Well, I will add an organized script on there. I also use this as check-in day. Check-in day, this is a custom script that I got done. And check-in day is a day that I go and check in with all my kids. I'm like, schoolwork, personal stuff. What are our goals? What do we need to get done? And I like to do it once a week, although right now it's not always happening once a week. That's everything for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button too. Until next week, I'll see you guys real soon.